Are you concerned about the future? Like maybe you're not sure what's going to happen. Are we just going to destroy this Earth and then have to go somewhere else like Mars if that's even hospitable?
Ugh.
Or are we just going to destroy the whole entire Earth or just blow each other to smithereens? Or is something better coming like Star Wars or Star Trek or any of these scenarios?
Where you have a conglomerate that controls everything and they're evil,
Dune.
and you
Yeah,
have to have some like little guys come out and fight them and stuff and whatnot. Yeah.
exactly. So you're in luck because today's episode, we're going to talk about will the future turn out like science fiction predicts? This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
And I should just start with disclosing we can't actually see into the future. This is just speculation.
Pure speculation. Although, on a side note, it is funny though, because if you look at early science fiction, a lot of what the things they imagined did come true. Like submarines ended up becoming true, right? If you look at 20,000 Leagues Under Sea is a great example. Spaceships, like rockets, the ability to get to the moon became a reality. So a lot of science fiction does try to base itself in science. And I think there is it's people just imagining how far we could take this thing. So there is some, I'm not saying it's all true, don't get me wrong, or that it all will come to be, but that there is some foundation for it, which is interesting. I've always found that really fascinating.
Like the movie Idiocracy. That was
That's a
that
great
was
one.
totally predictive of the future.
Yeah,
Like people just got dumber and dumber. And then yeah, and we're
that was
just
a
keep
great movie though.
yeah, we're just keeping
Yeah.
going. But so I've been really enjoying the what do they call it? The so not the soap opera. The well, anyways,
Space
The
opera?
Expanse. Space opera. That's it. Space
Yeah.
opera. The Expanse. And I mean it's 9 books. They're all pretty darn thick, but it's really, really entertaining. And I just love getting caught up in that because it reminds me like how vast space is.
Oh yeah. That's the thing I love about it too, because dude, space operas, if anybody's not familiar with the idea, it's usually stories that take place across space, like stars and stuff. So there's like ability to travel very easily between things and all, people all over, aliens, whatnot. It's very fun. But there's always things like it reminds you of how vast it is, but I like it because they also play into the unknowns. They're like, because it's so vast and because we know so little about it, that there's this possibility of discovering things that you would never even think of or have no idea what they are, whether they're other intelligence or just random natural events that are crazy or what, right? And it's kind of crazy.
And it's like nuts how, space is huge, but it's just this vacuum. And so we can create these little environments inside of there
Yeah.
that are essentially like self-sustaining, but outside of that, you're just dead. And so like,
Yeah.
they enact justice by just airlock
Throwing
putting people
people.
out the airlock and just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like the old
crazy.
old days, right? Where you walk plank, except
Yeah.
way worse in some sense, I guess.
Well,
You way
it's
less
nuts
likely to.
because you go into a vacuum and your blood boils. It
Yeah,
just,
which is weird.
yes, totally.
You'd think you just freeze instantly, right? But
Yeah.
that's not the case. It's very strange.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I was
it's
trying
funny
to
'cause
imagine while reading, I was trying to imagine what it would be like stepping into a vacuum, but I couldn't.
yeah, I hope I can. It's funny too because when you read those books or you watch watch movies like Star Wars or even Dune or whatever, right? It's funny because there's always this ability to travel, you know, and usually faster, obviously, than we do now. Otherwise, they would never get anywhere and people would just die all the time. Sometimes stories actually do account for that, but could you imagine though, really though, because the ships are usually pretty big, but I don't care how big it is. At some point, you're on a ship that you can't exit.
Yeah, and you're
Like you
stuck with these
are,
people, and yeah.
yeah,
And
like
I
you're
want to
trapped.
come back to that in a second. I should also add, we are looking for episode ideas. So if you are a listener, let us know if you have any questions, philosophical, life, otherwise. You can either comment on the YouTube video or in the show notes, there's an email address. You can send us an email,
Yeah,
and we will likely make an episode about it.
yeah,
So
pure speculation. I enjoy
yeah,
that also.
yeah. So
Yeah,
like the being stuck on a ship. So I was imagining that in the Expanse they have that big one Goliath ship. I forget the name of it, the
yeah.
Behemoth or whatever. And yeah, because that one's like they planned on it being like a generation ship where they would live on it for a long time
Oh
and
yeah,
and
you're
it
talking about
spins
the
and
religious
everything like
group.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And it has grass and trees and everything like that. It, I mean, essentially. when you take essentially the Earth is a big spaceship
That's
just
all it
moving
is,
through the
right?
vacuum of space. Yeah.
Yes. Which is
Uh-huh.
funny though, because you ever read there's a series there's a book called I think it's called like it's like Rama something Rama, and it's about this basically this alien vessel just happens to come into our solar system. The whole book's interesting because it's just about people trying to get to it, explore it, understand what it is, right? And
Uh-huh.
it's the same kind of thing where like the ship has like environments inside, so it has gravity because it's got the spinning thing, it's got water, all this stuff, really cool. And like it's interesting because that's all the Earth is. But then you read other stuff like The Expanse, like the ship those guys run around in most of the time is small. It is
Hmm.
not a big ship. And I don't care how fast they're going, those journeys are going to take a long
A
time.
long, long time. Yeah, because they would
Yeah.
talk about going places and it would be like months. You're just stuck on
Yeah.
a ship for months. Like, could you, I mean, think about it during COVID where you were stuck in your house pretty much for months or a year or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's pretty much that. Like, gosh, that would be boring.
Which is I mean, that's the International Space Station, right? Like they talk about it all the time with astronauts. Like they have to, when NASA sends astronauts up there, they have schedules like drilled down to like the 10-minute intervals. And part of that is because they don't want them to get bored or have those problems of like, nothing to do. So they just break down the whole thing. And I think the longest I know they did a study with somebody up there for a year.
Hmm.
But the International Space Station, dude, is tiny. Have you ever seen the inside of that thing? It is
Uh,
like literally, if you go and look it up, it's like it's tiny. There's not a lot of room there.
okay, so like there's this dude that I met who is a deep sea underwater welder. So like
That's another good
he
example.
yeah, so
Yeah.
he basically these down in like the Gulf where they have not the in like the Middle East Gulf where they have all these giant oil platforms and everything there. He goes down in this vessel that like him and a handful of other people go down. They have to go down slowly, they have to come back up slowly, but like they stay down there for 3 weeks or something like that. But it's essentially like a little teeny little space. And in the center there's a hole where you can jump out into the water and it's pitch black and everything like that. But it's like it's crazy to imagine like being stuck there with a handful of people. Because I've been scuba diving for a while, and scuba divers are just like obnoxious. And they all think that they're the best diver ever, and all they ever want to do is talk about how all of their equipment is better than everybody else. And I'm just like, I can't even imagine, like, I can barely go on a dive boat with people for like an
Yeah.
afternoon. And it's like, imagine being stuck underwater with them. There's literally no way out. Like, the emergency protocol to come back to the surface takes 3 days.
Yeah,
So
because you
it's
can't just rush up. You die. You get
yeah,
sick. I mean, like,
yeah.
and that's part of the reason why they stay down there for 3 weeks, though, too, is it'd just be impractical
Hmm.
to go down for each shift. You would never, I mean, it takes 3 days to get down there. You'd never get anything done, right?
Yep.
I mean, I know they usually have like, from what I remember, I read about them before, they usually have like game rooms and stuff. They have stuff for them to do, obviously, so they don't lose their minds because they don't work 24/7. But yeah, I mean, you have to remember that, like, that's what traveling would be like, right? You're
Yeah.
stuck in a thing where you can't go anywhere else because literally you'll die. Like, at least the earth is big enough that you can go other places and
Hmm.
ostensibly get away from people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about time travel? Because that's in some science fiction stuff where you
A
can,
lot of science fiction stuff.
yeah, you could travel through time, you can travel through space. How about, okay, so like on the one hand, we're like what happens? How would you feel if they figured out what time travel was? But it turns out they can't like transport your actual cells and everything throughout time and space. They have to just have this like other like cell matter that they transport your consciousness to. And then after they've confirmed that you've been transported there, they just kill you.
Huh.
And
That'd
so
be
your
interesting.
consciousness is over there, but
Mm.
it's not your like you would have to
So
be
you hope
killed
there's no
here.
mistakes.
Yeah, right?
Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because that was there was I remember reading one book. I can't remember what it is at the time of my head right now, but the idea was they had like teleportation.
Hmm.
So not time travel, but to get to places instantaneously. But they couldn't send matter. What they did was they sent the information. So they download your consciousness, send the consciousness, and then reconfigure it in a new body, like grow a
Hmm.
new body,
Yeah.
which I thought was really cool and interesting. And so there'd be effectively two of you in this context, right? Because you
Hmm.
scan the person, send them, and then
Oh, so they
you know
keep the original version.
the original gets kept. Yeah, yeah. Well, some people lost
What
their
happens if you
originals
make
too
a
in this
copy of
story,
a
though.
copy and then you just have these weird little like inbred people? Like, oh, he's got an extra arm. Don't worry. He
Or you're
must be
just
a copy
missing
of a
stuff,
copy.
missing memories and all your copy, copy, copy. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was interesting though. But I think that's what I like about science fiction is like they take, especially like hard science, they'll take the science now and just extend it to its like, possible conclusions and
Hmm.
just imagine what happens. And I think a lot of it probably will, if we make it long enough, I think a lot of it would come to pass because, we keep making progress on
Hmm.
stuff.
Yeah.
Eventually, we probably will get to like Mars and stuff and probably try to start something there, I
Well,
imagine.
the terraforming project,
Yeah,
like in the
yeah,
book.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
God,
that's one thing is we haven't found another planet with like the green
that's
like the
close
an
now.
atmosphere. No, it's close. Yeah.
No, because like I mean, even with what does Mars take right now? Like 9 months to get to or something? Like it's not a short trip at all by any means. But
Mm.
it's funny though. Think about that. Like when they were talking, I think it was when they were there was that a while back. There was that guy who was like wanted to do that expedition to Mars to colonize it. You remember? It was like some
Like
rich guy. It wasn't Musk. It was somebody else.
Bronson? Richard
Maybe I don't know.
Branson?
Maybe
Uh,
it might have been him. I can't remember who it was, but they literally had so many people signing up, and I was like, dude, are you insane? Do you know what it'd be like to be the first people there?
it would suck.
You'd have a little inflatable thing that you have to live in, and everything would be hard as hell
And
to
then
do
one
anything.
asteroid shower punctures it and you guys are done. Just
Yeah,
wipes out the whole
yeah,
colony.
yeah. Dude,
Yep.
they showed there was an image, NASA shared an image of they called it a micrometeorite. It was a fleck of paint from some other thing hit one of their satellites, and it looked like a bullet hole in a car,
Yeah.
literally. And it was a fleck of paint. Like it's
Jeez.
crazy. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you think about that, right? Mars has no real protection. It has a very thin atmosphere, I think, if at all. So yeah, anything could happen. I
Uh-huh.
don't think we think about that a lot either. I think the Expanse did a good job with that with the asteroid belt where they're working,
Yeah.
in painting it as a pretty horrible environment overall because they're far away, right? It's like people don't
I
care
think
and like yeah.
you know what book that Seven Eves book that had something about asteroid showers hitting the ships and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just it though. There's like so many violent things that happen and there's mostly emptiness. And I think this is our biggest hurdle. Like if we can't figure out how to do this, get there faster, there's no way we're going anywhere.
Well, what happens if there's like life extension, which gra- I mean, I think we're getting they speculate. Didn't they find something in mice or something that makes them live
They've already
forever?
done it actually. So yeah, so they've been doing they've been able to basically clock back mice's lives so that they extend their like so like say
Hmm,
the mouse gets to like 3, they can bring them back to like 1.5 effectively and just
crazy.
extend their lives that way.
So like
That's been done already. Yeah.
so you take that, you mix that with like propofol or something, Michael Jackson juice that just like makes you forget, like the stuff they give you before surgery, it just takes your
Oh yeah.
consciousness, and then essentially you can travel for however long you want, just in a state where you're sleeping.
That's true, actually. Yeah. Well, that's
Hmm.
the other interesting thing is because most of these for long-term travel where they don't assume faster than light, but even quicker speed, usually have some kind of like hibernation, right? And I've always wondered that too, because we have examples of that of real animals that do that. There's worms, and I think it's Alaska or maybe Antarctica or Alaska, one of those places, where they basically freeze every year,
Hmm.
but they have this antifreeze in their blood so
Hmm.
that when it thaws, they just come back to life. And over an
That's
8 year
cool.
period, all they do is try to eat these little plants for like 8 years, then they become a moth.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, there's plenty of examples of that. So like, I mean, theoretically, right? It's just a matter of we're a complex entity, so it's a matter of figuring out how to adopt it. But these things are possible. And I
Hmm.
think, they've also, I think I'm curious to see because teleportation would be one that would be awesome because that would be faster. Or like if we can increase our travel time a lot, that would be good. Because
Hmm.
everything that's the other thing people don't realize too is like it's so far even to the closest star. Like is I don't remember the exact timeline, but do you know how long it takes to get to the closest one? It's like
Oh, it's light
it's a
years or
long
something.
yeah, it's like 4 light years or something, which translates to a very long time.
Yeah,
like
considering we can't travel at the speed
hundreds
of
of
light
thousands of
or even a
years. Yeah.
fraction of the speed of light, so it's going to be way more years than that. But
Yeah.
here's another thing: is it the speed of light? So like everybody takes that as a uh grant,
Fixed.
like as a constant. Yeah, that like number one, it's a fixed constant. Number two, you can't travel faster than it. And like maybe those are true, but what if they're not?
Yeah. We don't know.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part. They could be. It could
Uh-huh.
be like totally false. It could be just like a limit we're self-imposing because that's our understanding of the universe. We
Mm-hmm.
don't know a lot about anything.
Mm-hmm.
We know very little, especially when you talk about space. It's interesting. I mean, the fact that we've even been able to like develop these like telescopes and satellites that are sophisticated enough to even like tell that there's other planets out there and what they might be composed of is amazing. Let alone like figuring out how to go faster. Because we don't
Mm-hmm.
have the technology for that yet, but that would be interesting. I do
Yeah.
always I love books and I like shows where like people do like jet around and like ships like it's like a car, you know?
Uh-huh.
And like it's like
Yeah.
nothing. I always
And
do
they
that.
make the noise like
It'd be awesome. It'd just be cool to be able to be like, all right, I'm going to that planet
or like
and just take off.
or in Back to the Future, the skateboard that Michael J. Fox had. That was like super, that was such a cool skateboard. I wanted that so
Yeah.
bad, the
Oh,
anti-gravity
dude,
skateboard.
I remember in like the late 80s, people thought there was gonna be like hover cars and like,
Dude, they thought by the year 2000 it was gonna be here. You
yeah,
know? What
not even.
happened?
We gave up, I guess, on all of our
We
ingenuity.
got social media instead. Yeah.
Dude, we really did it.
Oh,
People thought 2000 was gonna be like insane. They thought there was gonna be like flying cars and all this
what do
like
you
high-tech androids.
what do you think is going to happen with social media in the future of social media? Holy cow. Like when are they going to get to the point where they recognize that yeah, there's benefits, but it is like in every study they do, it like destroys your life. You know, it makes you more depressed. It makes you more likely to commit suicide.
Yeah,
It makes you less likely to relate to people. And it's like, yeah, but that's how I stay on top of subjects, and that's what I do when I'm bored. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't know what was going on. And it's just like, okay,
yeah.
yeah, there are benefits to like cocaine and alcohol. They're fun, but still, in
Doing them all the
general,
time is not a good idea,
yeah.
right? Well, there's benefits there. That's always the problem, right? Is like none of these things are inherently evil. Nothing is. It's just how we use it, right? It's either going to be good or bad based on our usage. So I
Mhm.
think we forget too that we're at the very beginning of these things. So hopefully in time we work it out and figure it out, you know, and
Mhm.
maybe one day in the future, like this stuff will be used for like mostly for like really information, like learning, like making learning accessible and like people like, you know, showing cool things or whatever. I don't know, but like
Uh,
who knows?
yeah.
Doubt it, but maybe.
Yeah, doubt it.
You
I
never know.
know, dude, with AI, like that's the end of education is AI.
I
Like
know.
seriously. If I was a kid in school, I would not ever do any homework ever because you could just prompt AI to do it
And arguably
and get
learn
it
just
done
as
so much
much.
better. Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
Crazy.
It's gotten bad. But yeah.
Anything
Well,
else
that's
you
the
want to
other.
add about the future?
I do think that if we do get to other planets, like if we really do start exploration, like even just in our solar system, like Jupiter's moons and stuff, the ideal thing will be developing some sort of robots to go first and small robots.
Oh.
Because because you know, think about it, you could send robots on a mission that takes 100 years, who cares? Because they're not going to have a problem. You just turn them on when you get there. And I think that would
Uh,
be the logical thing to me would be use technology for that purpose.
uh. What happens if they develop consciousness out there and then they build their
Hey,
own
good for
robot
them. They'll
force
start
and
their own
then
society and come and attack us. That's happened in
yeah.
many books.
Yeah,
That is
right? Yeah.
that is a premise to a lot of stories, so we'll see.
Yeah. All right, sweet. Well, there you have it. What the future will look like will be like science fiction. Uh, before we sign off, we are always looking for episode ideas. So if you have any, email us, emails in the show notes, or comment on the YouTube videos. And other than that, we'll catch you next time. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.